Hi, Steve Stine from Guitar Zoom here. I first want to say thank you to everybody who responded from the last video. Your questions, your comments. It was really awesome. It's always nice for teachers to see dialogue and learning happening. That's really the whole point, isn't it? So thank you so much for that. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to start breaking down a little bit of what I'm doing this week. But before that, what I'd like to do is just recap a couple of questions that we had from the last one. The last video, I was talking about the ocean effect, which for me, just a quick recap, is when you learn how to strum dynamically. The instability of what waves do. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're little, sometimes they're aggressive, sometimes they're mellow and quiet. And learning how to implement those elements into your strumming ability when you play, whether it's acoustic, whether it's electric, it doesn't matter what style it is, but learning how to feed off the emotional aspect of playing versus just strumming all the time. And so we talked about how, and I could do that on electric here and show you, how you want to change up your strumming, right? So hopefully when you were practicing this, you were trying to put different strumming elements in instead of just using a monotone kind of strumming pattern. You're learning more to groove by how things feel than practicing a systematic pattern. That was really the idea. And then from there, we started talking about the ability of being able to strum louder and softer in different places relative to the pattern itself, or maybe even the chord progression that you're playing. You might build on a certain chord more than another chord, or if your singer starts singing a little louder, you start bringing it up. But you're utilizing that dynamic, that human element to make your strumming more successful. And again, bottom line, that's one of the most important things that you can possibly learn how to do when it comes to creating rhythm and groove. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about the funk element. And again, for me, having taught, I've taught thousands of students all around the world, thousands of them. And I've been, playing and teaching for, I think it's been like 25, 26 years now. And this is one of those areas that people have a real problem with as well. Teaching people how to strum is kind of the first step, right? But learning how to groove, like really creating funky sounding grooves, is actually kind of difficult for most people. And so I want to help you a little bit with that today. And so the first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to create a pattern. I'm using this little groove in the key of E. And what I'm doing is playing D on the 5th string, which is the 5th fret. And then I'm going to E with my ring finger on the 7th fret. And then I'm going to go to the 5th fret of the 4th string. That note right there is G, so I'm going D, E, G, and then I'm going to go back to the E. So I'm just going 5, 7, 5, and then back to the 7. Now I want to show you the difference between the way I'm playing it now and the way I would like to play it. And then I'm going to help you do the same thing. So if I have... Okay, now what I want you to notice is the first grouping of 5, 7, 5, 5, 7, 5, 7. The first group and the third group are exactly the same rhythmically. The one in the middle is a little bit different. So I have... See, all those are on a beat. But then right afterwards, I'm going to change this beat. I'm going to come in right away on this 5, so it's on an off beat. Okay? So instead of being on what we call a down beat, it's going to be on an off beat, which means instead of being here, it's going to be in between those. So I'm going... See that? And that throws off the groove, which again creates something that's compelling, as opposed to just doing the same thing 3 times. It's subtle, but it's incredibly important. And what you're going to notice, all 3 of those now, that 5, that 7, and the 5 on the 4th string, they're all on the off beat now. So I went... See that? Now, watch what I do. I'm going to put those 2 pieces together, play it a bit more realistically. Now you'll notice the last note that I played of that second little section, I put it back on a downbeat, which made the spacing between this 5 and this 7 longer. So again, a subtle technique, but because of that, it makes the whole thing, instead of having all of these are on downbeats and then all of these that are on offbeats, the last one of this sequence is on a downbeat, which creates that larger space, which sounds pretty cool. I could even do like a little blues bend in there like this. Right, something like that. You can see I'd like to add a little vibrato on there just because I like to do that. Then I'm going to go back to the first grouping again and do that again. So play along with me and let's try this. So we're going to go 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, now on the offbeat ones, you'll notice I'm throwing in a little space as well. I'm playing a more staccato, which again is another effect that's essential to your rhythm, to your groove element. See that? So as you're playing it, you also want to start learning how to listen to it. Now, you don't have to play it exactly the same way I do. You can do whatever you want with it. But I want you to be aware of the tools that you're actually using, where so many players will just look and go, oh, the tab says 5-7, 5-7, and they'll play the tab, but they're not really in sync with what they're actually playing. They're not really trying to find a groove. They're just playing notation. They're just looking at the standard notation or the tablature or whatever, and they're playing the numbers, but they're not really paying attention to what it actually sounds like. Okay? So it's really important to be aware of that as you're playing. Now I'm ending with 5, 3, 0 on the 6th string, or on the 6th string, excuse me, yep. And then the 7th fret of the 5th string. So I have. Now I'm using my first finger twice because I'm already on my first finger from my riff. So I'm just moving from 5 to 3, then 0, and then up to my 7, which is my E. Now I might slide into that 7. Right? I might do a hammer-on from the 5 to the 7. So, something like that. I mean, there's all kinds of cool things that I can do to continuously embellish it. But what I want you to be concerned with is the groove factor. Okay, the technical side of it we'll get into some other time. But let's just focus on that. So now what I want to do is I want to show you 2 critical concepts to add to this idea. Instead of simply playing the notes, we know we can use vibrato and things like that with our left hand to make things more interesting, which we want to do for sure, absolutely. But what about our right hand? What about our strumming hand? If you're flipped over your guitar, it doesn't make any difference. But whatever you're using for your strumming, what should you do with that? Well, the first thing I want you to start thinking about on our road to funk grooving or Texas blues style grooving, whatever it is that you want to think of, I want you to start thinking about playing more percussively by smacking more than one string. Instead of playing tight and closed, I call it closed positioning, is when you play like this. Everything's really small and it's all very articulate. And again, essential to guitar playing. But what I want you to do instead of that is I want you to start smacking more than one string, which means that when I play this 5 here, what I want you to notice is I'm strumming all 6 strings, but you're only hearing this note D, the 5th fret of the 5th string. That's all you're hearing. Because I'm deadening everything else out with my index finger. So I'm deadening the 6th string with the tip of my index finger, and I'm deadening everything else with the rest of my index finger laying against those strings. Now, do you have to hit all 6 strings? Of course not. You can do whatever you want. But what happens is you're giving the guitar 2 purposes right there. It's creating a melody by the note that you're playing, but it's also creating a percussive sound by the strings that you're hitting and you're not playing, right? Or you're not letting vibrate. It's huge and it's really important, and it's a subtle technique, but when you listen to certain players, like again Stevie Ray Vaughan or lots of funk guitar players, lots and lots and lots, whether it's 70s style funk or 80s style funk or whatever it might be. A lot of players use this sort of thing. You listen to James Brown's guitar player. There's just a whole bunch of different people that you could look at. But what I want you to get comfortable with is learning how to control with your left hand and implement that into your playing as you're doing this. Now, I don't have a bunch of strings ringing, right? That would be bad. I don't want that. I have to learn to control it. And that's an essential part of learning how to be really good at guitar, is learning how to control the technique that you're trying to implement. So although in the beginning of this video, I was talking about 5-7-5 and all that sort of thing, and usually what happens is the player will gravitate to learning that riff, right? Because I'm showing them how to play 5-7-5 and that sort of thing. And that's fine. But 1,000 times more important than that riff I just showed you is the technique that I'm showing you to apply to the riff. Because if you learn how to do that, you can do it to anything. Anything. Any single note idea, you could do it anywhere, at any time, whatever it is. And so that's what I want you to start thinking about. So as I'm doing this, I'm deadening everything. Now, when I go to the 5th fret of the 4th string, the only thing I got to be careful of now is this 6th string, because it's now exposed. I could use my thumb over the top, but I don't. If you want to use your thumb, that's perfectly awesome. What I do is I just move my pick down a little bit, so I avoid the 6th string entirely. So when I go, I move down a little bit. Now, I want you to notice, though, how my middle finger will tend to come up and it'll start deadening that 6th string. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to avoid vibration. I don't want that 6th string to ring out over the top. You see? Now, again, this is the whole point of all of this, is learning how to control all of your strings, especially if you're ever playing on stage and things are really loud and, feeding back and all that sort of thing. You need to be in complete control of this stuff. And the other aspect is creating that groove. You're not going to hear the groove that I'm trying to create if other things are vibrating and making noise, right? So every one of those notes, I'm punching with this funk groove. You see that? Now, the last part of this puzzle is that what you want to start doing is learning how to scratch, as we did in video 1. You want to learn how to scratch in between some of this to create some more groove, some more percussive groove. It doesn't have to be a lot. Again, it's entirely up to you. You're now going to implement that ocean effect in between the funk element of this sort of Texas groove, right? This funk groove. And you don't have to be a slave to a pattern. You don't have to play it a certain amount of times. So again, I go back to my ocean effect and I'm doing this. I'm just playing. But then I've got these points that I've plotted, this 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, right? I'm going to push with my left hand when I want those. And so all of a sudden I'm switching from my scratching of my ocean effect idea into this funk groove. So what's great about this, if you think about it, is you have multiple layers of thought. The first thing you need to do is develop the ability to be able to create a groove by ocean effect, right? And again, if you haven't seen video 1, I strongly encourage you to go back and check that out, because you're going to need that for what we're doing right now. The second step is figuring out what your left hand needs to be doing, right? That pattern that we just created. Then what we did was we started creating this punch where we're hitting all these strings. And then the last thing that we're doing is we're creating that scratch in between. So all of those need to be built independently, right? If you're having a hard time visualizing your tablature, or you don't know where the notes are on your, or not the notes, but the fret numbers are on your guitar, you need to start with that. Or if you have a hard time memorizing the notes, or the pattern, I should say, you need to start with that, obviously. But if you're past that, now's the time to really start thinking about the right hand. And I say this with the utmost conviction and the absolute belief that it is the number one thing that people do wrong, that guitar players do wrong. We spend so much time thinking about theory or thinking about technique of our left hand or speed or whatever it is, or scales, and we need those, there's no doubt. But what lacks is the ability of creating that groove with your right hand. I have tons of metal players all around the world, and again, God bless them all. I'm glad to be able to help them. But many of them, the number one issue that they have when they can play fast, they can play heavy, but they can't really create a natural groove because it's just not something that they study. And so what I want you to always be is open to opportunities. It doesn't matter whether you like blues or you like jazz or you like country or you like metal. I like them all. It doesn't make any difference. I just love all styles of music, all kinds of different things. But when I'm given a situation to be in, I need to be able to do the best to my ability in that particular situation. And what's awesome about what we're talking about right now is that this applies to all styles of music. It doesn't matter what style you're playing, right? The ocean effect is applicable to anything. This funky groove, again, is more selective. It's not ocean effect, right? But it's certainly something you could use all kinds of different places when you're playing. I use them when I solo. I might be playing something where, let's say I'm going like this. I'm going. But then all of a sudden I want to go. So I'll move between what I call closed position and open position. I'll move between playing really kind of refined and then all of a sudden I'll start smacking things. It all depends on where it needs to be in the song, right? So what I want you to think about is all of these techniques. Start developing these a little bit. Please respond. Okay, give me some comments. Let me know how things are going. Let me know that this is helping you, or if you have issues with something that we need to look at and figure out, what the next step would be for you. But comment, okay? Drop a comment in there. Share it if you will, right? Let somebody else see what's happening here. See if we can help somebody else with the same situation. And then I've got a third video coming up real soon here. We're going to take all of this and we're going to start building yet another level. So I'm excited to let you know, what the next situation is going to be for us. But let's start with the first one, the ocean effect, building into this. And if you really like rhythm and you really think that you need to enhance your ability to create rhythm and groove, I'm going to let you know in the third video, we're going to bring this up to another level. So take care and have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you soon.